Mr. Dylan Jones, how are you?
I'm doing good, Don. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm better now that I can see over your left shoulder, Dylan. What is that? A 2 point?
That is a 3 point mule deer. For anyone who's a hunter, it's not the biggest deer I've ever shot or that ever existed, but it was the first deer that I shot way on a backpacking solo
Oh, love it.
backpacking hunt. And that was a couple years ago now. I can't remember, but yeah, that was the first solo backpack hunt,
Yeah.
way up in the bush in British Columbia, and I had to bring it out all on my lonesome. So it was
What the
quite the
ordeal?
adventure. Totally hooked me for pretty much only backpack hunting now.
Oh, I love it. Well, you and I are going to get along really well. I didn't, you can't call it backpack hunting, but last year we packed out an elk that
Okay.
was an hour away each way. And so I got it with a couple of buddies. They went back up to the truck, which is an hour away, then had to get the truck to go back to camp, which was another hour away. And as soon as they left my sight, a black bear and her little cub came in on me.
Oh,
And so I
beauty.
dealt with that for quite a while. Though it was a standoff, I guess you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Throwing
Wasn't it?
rocks and screaming and trying to get it thing out of
Oh,
there.
the cub went up the tree right away, and then you don't want to, you obviously don't want to, the mom's got to live because otherwise the cub won't live. So I didn't want to do anything too drastic, but
Yeah.
it sure made for a stressful day. And then she didn't leave the whole time I was cleaning it. So
Just stood there and watched, hey? Just
there,
waited her
well,
turn.
she was popping her teeth and stuff. It was, anyways, that's a different podcast. That's
Yeah.
Steven Ranella type stuff. This is, you're a construction pro. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dylan, so everybody here knows who you are and what you're doing in this world.
For sure. So my career started in construction when I was in high school. I did framing for my uncle's house building company. We actually did floating concrete structures, so docks, wharves. If you ever go down to Granville Island in Vancouver, we built all of those,
Mm.
and then we pivoted. Or in pivot, we just added on to that business. I can remember about 4 or 5 years in. So we built the docks and the floats, and then we built houses on top of them for a lot of the river communities down
Right.
in Delta and Ladner and things like that. So we built a lot of the floating homes, which are the difference between a floating home and a houseboat is houseboats have motors. Floating homes are literally just homes on that float. We built a lot of those, probably 50-60% of the ones that are in Ladner, Richmond, Vancouver, something like
Queensboro.
that.
Yeah.
Queensboro, yeah, a lot in Queensboro.
Yeah.
I did that until university. Went to university, and then when I got out of university, I found my way into the mining industry.
Oh,
I
what kind of
found my way
mining?
into the mining industry through construction, actually. So I went to build. Ended up building a couple camps, and then pivoted that an actual pivot into managing camps and managing small exploration mines and big exploration mines, and then moved on to the finance side and the business and ops side a
Wow.
few years later. So just kind of kept climbing up as much as I could, sort of thing. So after a few seasons in Yukon, yeah, when you're 6-7 months away from home with 1 or 2 few day breaks, you either made for it or not. And I really enjoyed it, but I also decided that I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah. It's tough life living in work camps and being away from family, and it's two different worlds. And yeah.
Yeah, it's very in hard rock mining, especially in Yukon, because your season is relatively short because of winter.
Yeah.
It's not like the oil patch where you're 2 on or 2 off, and you're going from Fort Mac to Edmonton or something like that, because they work all winter. They
Well,
shut
they
down.
want it frozen so those swamp mats can hold it's perfect, right? No.
Absolutely, right. So we shut down typically late September, mid October, and then would open up like April, May. It all depended on snowpack
On the
and
weather.
where it
Yeah.
was. And because it's so remote, it's less snowpack and it's more of it accessibility with helicopters. In the winter, it's the ceiling for helicopters is so low and so rare that it's really inefficient. So you pack a whole lot of work into a real short amount of time, and you don't do much but work for those 6
Right.
months.
Now, you and I met because of a construction company you were running, happens to be here. We're in the same city. And
Yeah.
then you took the course, the 30-day construction business course, which is interesting because you've got a ton of experience already. What drew you to looking at that type of education, given all the stuff you already came to the table with?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I partnered with a couple of guys that are really good tradesmen, craftsmen.
Mm.
They've been in trade since high school, both in carpentry and electrical.
Mm.
And with my background in ops, I wanted a framework, which has turned out to be your course, that was focused specifically on a couple of guys that hadn't had a background in business or operations, that I could use as almost my third party coach in a way, to say, hey, listen, Dom's given us this program. Let's follow it step by step. This isn't me telling you what to do. It's Dom telling us what to do. And yeah, it worked really well. It especially for, I learned stuff as I went through. It wasn't like I knew everything. I learned a lot, but it was really, really helpful to keep us, on cadence, 30 days of getting a bunch of basics done that these guys, even though they've been in business for 4 or 5 years, I don't think they skipped over it. It was one of those things, they didn't know what they didn't know. And
when you get caught swinging the hammer or turning the wrenches, you don't think about the business building side of it because you're on the next estimate, you're on the next job, estimate job, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So thank you for that. It's interesting. What you said there about using a course like this to show this other group of guys and say, hey, look, it's just Dom. Let's just do what he says, have a look at it. And then it takes the pressure off of you. You know what? That sounds like an awful lot like a family business. Doesn't it? When you're trying to get something done in a family business and you're the one driving forward, everybody goes, oh, you're just the little brother, middle brother, big brother, trying to be that person again. It sure is helpful when you can blame me.
Yeah, and the two guys, Noah and Ivor. Noah, I grew up with 3 houses away from since we were about 4 years old.
No way.
And then Ivor, we went to the same high school. So for Noah and I, there's definitely that brotherly love-hate sort of thing going on.
So there's 5 modules in that course. They're starting with mindset. And I struggled when I put the course together because a lot of people would say, why are you starting with mindset? And I know what I'm doing, but what does mindset have to do with success in construction?
Yeah, I almost would rather start in reverse because I'm going to speak so highly of the mindset section. I love the mindset section. I'm a big believer in mindset, having values driven, morals driven businesses, everyone on the same page is super important. In the businesses I've, built, ran, and sold in tech and e-commerce, mining tech specifically in e-commerce, the success came from everyone, or at least the leadership, being aligned on what the vision and the values of the company were. So introducing those topics and ideas and then going through your format of
the workbook,
walking back to the very first day, Noah and Ivor decided they want to start a business. There was a lot, they had all the answers, and I imagine anyone would have all the answers, but they just never written them out, right? They never thought about all of the answers that were there. And so going through, like, why'd you start a business? What do you want to be as an entrepreneur? Why do you love construction? Why do you love building homes for people? It was cool to see them realize they knew the answers, and they both took it super seriously. Wrote, I think the boxes on your worksheet are
maybe 3 inches deep.
Yeah, right. A couple maybe a paragraph, and they had 10 post-it notes added. They had extra sheets. They were writing journals and novels, it seemed like, for each of the answers, and it was really interesting.
But that's good because you have to get those words on the page to make that business stick.
Yeah.
A
lot of adjectives, which was pretty funny and very wordy. But no, that mindset portion, I think, gave them a lot more clarity on what they were actually trying to do.
Yeah.
Did you guys earlier, right?
Did you guys, one of the parts of that mindset thing is who's your perfect customer? That one usually throws people for a loop, especially guys. And I say guys, people that are running a construction business that aren't afraid of anything. They're not afraid of heavy machinery. They're not afraid of leveling a wonky lot. They're not afraid of going up 3 stories or 2 stories. Not afraid of concrete. They're not afraid of electrical. They're just not afraid of anything. And so their answer often is, "Hey, Dom, we can do anything." It's understanding, or that question, that the challenge in the mindset portion is, who's your perfect customer? How did you guys deal with that?
Pretty much went verbatim for what you just said. It was, we can do anything for anyone. And I had to step everyone back. Like, okay, yeah, I know you can, but that's not the point. And so I spun it on from my marketing background and taught them about what customer personas are, and
Wow.
And laid it out for, on a value, if you value scaled in terms of financial value against customers, and then time in from your business is where you kind of meet your margin point, and had to get a little more technical with them to get it out, because when I came on, they had just finished a bit of a hiring spree and hired a bunch of guys at $38 and $39 an hour, because they wanted to move into high end, specifically high end custom. But then we got this like smattering, because it's COVID and everyone wants a deck. We got, I don't even, like 6 months of deck work for like 10 times the amount of guys we had. And it was just all deck work, right? And so they were pumped, said yes to all of them. But then, you sit down and say, well, you hired guys to do high end work that needs 30-40% margins, but people who are getting decks made are 18-22% margins. You're not going to make any money doing this. And so that was a huge part when we went back to those customers and said, if we can't have 10 different types of customers, because you kind of have 10 different types of workers. And that was a small company, you can't do that. So they eventually got it. And we ended up kind of breaking the guys down into 2 teams and doing high end and decks, but a few of the guys who had been hired for specific things weren't really allowed to switch between the 2.
Yeah, it's a tough lesson for people to learn, and it's an awkward one, because you think we could do anything, and I don't want to turn down work. I want to keep my guys busy, but you have to focus. Well, that takes us right into marketing, Dylan. I can see you smiling a bit. It's actually not a problem with the client. The clients don't have the problem. Usually the problem is the business owners not marketing to the right kind of customers to get the right kind of customers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what did you take from the course from the marketing side? Because this is really about starting or changing a business that's somebody's dream. So this is the marketing for how to get those clients.
Yeah. So marketing portion, as I mentioned before, I have background in e-commerce. I've run a couple e-commerce companies, so I know a fair amount of the high level aspects of digital marketing. What I really, really appreciated about your marketing module was the ground level on the street, getting your sandwich boards out, having the trucks look good, because one of our vans was, can I swear? It was a piece of junk. I won't swear. It was a piece of junk, but I have worse words for the truck that we had. So, we got rid of. I
used to have that van. I used to own that van. Yeah. I had a van once that got condemned while I was driving it. I'm not kidding. I got pulled over and it got condemned.
We weren't quite that level, but this van, if the old movie Slapshot?
Yeah.
When the bus driver comes down and smashes holes in the bus with a sledgehammer, and they go, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I want it to look mean." That's how this one truck looked. It looked mean, and so when their guys were showing up to, it was kind of reverse curb appeal, right? Showing up to a job site, a person's house, doing a high end kitchen, and you've got a couple guys pouring out of a
really beat up van,
cloud of cigarette smoke. It was like, this isn't working. So we talked, we went through with the guys. We got everyone in a uniform, hats, masks, and t-shirts. Kind of had a where, when, like, we don't care if you smoke, but where, when, don't go in someone's house if you just had a cigarette, sort of deal. Sandwich boards, the door hangers, up and down the street. Really, really focusing in on the area. As a digital marketer, my mind goes global, right? It goes, if I can send a package to anyone across North America, I don't really care about local so much. But construction is the complete reverse of that, where if I'm killing it on one street with a house, why not just stay on that street? Because then I don't have to move equipment very far and vans very far.
Yeah.
And we
And the
did that.
neighbors all make the same amount of money and the neighbors have the same need and they've seen you around and
Absolutely. And so we added a few more touches, like we have a full on custom millwork shop. So we were at the end of projects, we're giving out really, really nice charcuterie boards with a bottle of wine and trying to get, encouraging the customers to bring over the clients to bring over people to have that wine and look at their deck then the next day. And we talked to a bunch of guys. We had a few guys that were, they're friendly guys, but they weren't interacting with neighbors very well. They were parking in neighbors' driveways and in front of neighbors' houses and making it difficult for the neighbors to really just be comfortable in their own street. So we said, we don't care if you guys park at the farthest end of the street and got to walk 30 seconds, make it easy on the neighbors beside our client because they're going to be our next clients. And that was, that's the marketing plan for the company right now. We actually don't do, we still do quite a bit of Facebook, but we killed the Google ads and we slowed down some of the kind of the growth of the digital marketing side because we're doing so well on the
good.
order.
Yeah.
Side.
You know what? Google can be good, but as you know, with your digital background, it can eat a lot of cash if you're not marketing to the right kind of client with the right message for the right service that you provide, whatever your construction specialty is, you're just burning money.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah. And that's really what it came down to is, our CPA, our cost per acquisition, on Google was good. We were getting quality leads through and closing them, but the CPA for on street with door hangers and sandwich boards was, I don't want to say zero, but it was very cheap. And those leads were, they weren't even hot. They were sales, right? Like people would say, I want to do this. When can you start? It wasn't even really a lead. We did sales in it. It was already sold.
We saw what you did for the Joneses. When can you start on our house?
Got it.
And as you know, sometimes in construction, just being the guy that shows up to actually do the estimate, like doing as you promised, gets you the job.
Oh man, that's one thing that really shook me up about this industry. Was how many guys will say they'll come do an estimate tomorrow and just they'll either not show up or they'll show up and they won't take notes or they won't bring a pen and paper to write down things. They won't bring business cards. And then they say, I'll get back to you. We made a rule, hard and fast rules. If you don't get back to a client with a quote. So we had the separation between quote and estimate. There's a fast quote, just then like a really, really maybe takes 15, 20 minutes to do. Sure. If you didn't get back in 48 hours, that sale was lost. And that was just basics for me, where so many of our competitors take weeks to get back, and they've always phone them back after 10 days. Are you still thinking about building that deck, or
it's already done, buddy? Like, it's already done.
Yeah, it's already done. Exactly.
I'm sitting on it now. Or the guys that give the quote on the back of a business card.
Yeah.
And expect to be taken seriously for a $40,000 kitchen reno.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
No, it's so easy to hand a card and say, I'll call you or send you an email tomorrow with a PDF quote, it just something that looks professional, but is done through Word and takes 20 minutes, right? Yeah. That closed us a lot of business over competitors in the exact same, geographic area and kind of business segment.
Thank you, Dylan. I love it. I appreciate the fact that you took the course so seriously and that you took a leadership position in the company and said, hey guys, let's dive into this thing. And it might not have been something all of you thought about going to do, but you went and found it and dragged it into the company and said, here it is, boys, let's attack it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's great. Well, listen, we're in the same city. So hopefully one day you and I get to strap backpacks on and go fishing or hunting or something. I'm a backpack hunter, man. 3 years ago, I did the Tachoti.
Where's that? I actually haven't heard of that.
Tachoti's up in the Peace area. I went up there for elk. You have to take a jet boat for 3 hours and then you get dropped off and that's it. You're in there for 10 days. Nobody's coming back for you.
That's awesome. Way up in Peace for elk, eh?
Yeah. Awesome. The Tachoti, it's in the Prophet Muskwa area.
Okay, I know. I've heard Prophet for sure.
Yeah, Prophet, Prophet, not right. Like my show, Prophet Go Belt, Prophet Muskwa. It's different. Yeah.
And that was last year?
3 years ago.
3 years ago, yeah. I'm doing a jet boat moose hunt this year up near Dees Lake, and then next year I'm doing a fly-in caribou. I've never hunted caribou, so that'll be.
Ooh, where are you going for that?
It's also not near Dees Lake, but a little farther northwest, right on the Yukon BC border.
Uh-huh.
Fly in. There's a series of lakes. You fly in either on a bush plane or depending on which lake you go to. One's a bush and one's a float plane.
Oh, okay. Sounds exciting. I think you and I are probably going to be hitting some of the same regions again. So we'll have side conversations on that.
Sounds awesome, Dom.
All right. Thanks, Dylan. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dom. No problem. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.